Good afternoon. Welcome to our Committee of the Whole for Wednesday, October 16th, 2019. I'd like to call this meeting to order at this time and ask if there's any declarations of interest. Seeing none, I will move on to community announcements. Perhaps we could start with Councillor Persechini today. Would that work for you?
It does.
Perfect.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving, because I did. My belt is a little tight this morning. But anyway, back to the special events. We went to this Pizza Staff Sports Complex. A lot of good turnout of our staff. The South Lake Gala was an unbelievable, terrific. The community open house was another success, thanks to all involved and all the volunteers and all our staff. And it was great. I mean, couldn't hardly move in there. What certain time was fantastic. Portraits of Giving, it was another good evening. And that's about it for me now, unless I'm missing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Morton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I attended the public meeting concerning the plans for the South Lake Hospital that was held at the Ross Family Complex, and attended the Mount Albert Lions Oktoberfest, which was a lovely evening, and I think everybody enjoyed that we're there. The fall open house, of course, at the Civic Center was amazing again this year. And Averton held a public meeting last night concerning moving ahead with their tree removal starting today, and at the Vivian Creek Park area, and I attended that last night. So that's it.
Thank you. Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Along with some of the things that have already been said, I just wanted to mention the community open house here at the Civic Center on the 8th. Very well attended. I thought it was for lack of a better term, a good show put on by the municipality. I'd like to also mention the Councillor Morton mentioned it briefly, the plans for the future for South Lake. That was the second meeting that I had attended, and I would urge everybody to go onto their site and have a look and take your opportunity to choose what you think is the best of the, I think there's 3 options or 4 options on there. It was very interesting to listen to what they have going on. I'd like to also mention anybody that's around Holland Landing on Wednesdays, I think from 11:30 to 1, Christchurch and Holland Landing has a soup and sandwich lunch. It's cheap. I think it's $4 or $5. So if you're looking for a quick lunch, that's the place to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Roy-DiClemente.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As I always like to look forward, I just wanted to put in a plug for our upcoming Public Libraries Week. And the East Gwillimbury Public Library's massive used book sale is coming up on Friday the 25th and Saturday the 26th, and it is accompanied by a silent auction as well. So bring your toonies, loonies, and other coins, and pick up some good deals. Thank you.
Are they still looking for more books?
They're always looking for good quality donations. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Crone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have a heck of a lot to add than what's already been said. The open house was great. The attended the South Lake healthcare information meeting. That was very interesting. I second Councillor Foster's sentiments that please everyone get educated on it. I also attended the MAVA, Mount Albert Village Association AGM, which was well attended. It was nice to see. Unfortunately, I couldn't make the Averton meeting last night. I was a little bit under the weather, still fighting it a bit. So I hope I'll get an update from Councillor Morton on that. As well, I'd just like to remind everyone that Monday is our federal election. So please get out and vote. That's it for me.
Thank you. Councillor Carruthers.
Thank you. I think everyone's covered it. I'm looking forward to the book sale and the election coming up. And I also wanted to let staff know what a amazing job they did on the open house. Everyone who was here was pleasantly surprised at how much information was here. And I hope we can do that more often. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It has been a busy time. It seems to me that it was quite some time ago on a couple of the ones that I wanted to talk about was the Farm to Fork. And that was put on by the Sharon Temple out visiting a number of farms in our community. And it Seemed to me there were larger numbers from the community than in the other years. The open house, again, kudos to staff, congratulations, and thank you very much. I know that for a few hours, there's been a lot of work put into it, and sometimes the hours that you're here are much smaller than the hours that you have worked to make it happen. We certainly appreciate it. Thank you. The Portraits of Giving, we had two people being recognized. One was Anita Donato and the other one was Kurt Kelly. And I think we had some of our staff here as well as members of council, and congratulations to them. The season's over for the farmers market. I was quite surprised the other day, but it was all about coming up to Thanksgiving. They had a great season. It's expected that there will be some changes for the 2024 farmers market, and specifically the location. No details yet. I know that each member of council are going to be asked what they are feeling about it, as will our members of our public. And stay tuned. I think it'll be over the winter, and I suspect that when we start around the 24th of May, then the decisions will be made at that time. I had the opportunity to attend the South Lake Gala as well, and very proud of our hospital and the fundraising that they do. It's a model on how to raise a lot of money in a short period of time. They had 800 people in the room, and they raised $1.1 million. So good for them, good for the people that stepped up. Some people stepped up with a lot of money, others there were smaller items as well. But congratulations to South Lake Hospital. They're certainly working very hard for our community. I have a couple of announcements. This year, our communications will be reaching out to elementary schools, grade 3 students, to invite them to design a holiday card for council. So those that have some interest in art or have a talent, we'd certainly like to see what you can come up with for us to send out and wish everyone well over the holidays. The winners will receive a prize for the first place choice and will be used by council as a 2019 holiday card and sent out to our partners. So stay tuned for more details. And with that, we will move. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I'm just wondering if I could add something to Councillor Crone's announcements concerning the Mount Albert Village Association General Meeting. And that was the fact that our Mr. Karmazin was there and was the guest speaker on what's happening at the park, and certainly what will be happening at the downtown revitalization. And people that were there, we had a really good turnout, but people that were there were actually quite pleased with what he gave out as information, and many of them are still talking about it. So Aaron, good job.
Thank you. With that, we will move to deputations, and I do not have any listed, Mr. Clerk. Is that correct?
That is correct, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We'll move to item F, and that's Community Parks, Recreation, and Culture with Councillor Persechini in the chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have two items here. The first item is joining Community Parks, Recs, and Culture Corporate Service Report CPR C2019-27, investing in Canada infrastructure, community recreation stream on page 33 to 41 you have in front of you. And the General Manager, Thomerson, do you have any comments? Please.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. The Investing in Canada Infrastructure program is a significant grant program that will partially fund parks, recreation, culture, and library projects to a total project value or upset limit of $50 million. Corporate services finance staff is working closely with CPRC staff to prepare a grant application for this intake. There's more information about the proposed application within the report to council. We are proposing the Health and Active Living Plaza project be considered, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you. Can I have a mover, please? Okay. Moved by Mr. Councillor Foster. All in favor? Opposed? Any questions? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just curious about, I know that there's a deadline for submission. Is there an indication of when we might be able to hear back about whether or not the application was successful?
General Manager Carmazon, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to my knowledge, the applicants will hear back in the end of Q4 in 2019, and then those successful applicants will advance to another stage in the grant application, and then the final decisions will be made in Q1 of 2020.
Thank you. Any other questions, Burgundy? Councillor Morton?
Through you to Mr. Carmazon. The second, under the record, the second number here under the recommendations, you're asking council to endorse the concept design. Now, I do know that there is a deadline on the submission, which is November the 12th. But for those of us that were not here on the bringing up of what we were going to be doing and approving it at the time, we have a meeting going out on Friday that we can go around and see these. And I'm just a little concerned. I don't know. I don't think anything is going to pop up that isn't there already, but I would like to give the people that are going out on this tour at least an opportunity to be able to find out why certain things were done and certain things weren't. And I just am not comfortable with endorsing the concept design right now, although I do support the whole what's going to be happening. But is there any possibility that we can leave it until after Friday? I mean, we've had special council meetings before to approve it, and that's just my thoughts right now.
General Manager Carmazon? Oh, Mr. Webster? Didn't see you.
Through you, Chair Persechini. I believe that the concept that's attached as an appendix to this is relatively new. It was produced after 10 months effort that General Manager Carmazon's groups had with the stakeholders and the public and partners. And it still is conceptual. It's not a detailed final design by any means, but it starts showing some of the concepts that are relatively new. And one of the things that struck me is just the amount of parkland around it's just not a hard building. This is quite a large facility. It's going to be very interactive, and the aquatic center and the library are key town components for sure. I will remind council that this is at committee of the whole, and it will not be ratified by council for 2 weeks. And this tour that has been arranged this week, it would allow for modifications if there's certain design elements or certain significant components that have been that should be addressed, can be addressed at that point. So this recommendation can still be modified in 2 weeks by council.
Okay with that? Okay. Any other questions of the committees? Councillor Foster, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Carmazon, I'm still relatively new at this, and I read some of these things and things pop into my head. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. Since we just received a grant for the Center Street project in Mount Albert, does that in any way affect the chances of receiving grants for the next little while? I guess what I mean is there a governing body somewhere that might look and say, hey, we just gave these guys some money not long ago. What happens with the next one?
General Manager Carmazon. Or
Mr. Chair, through you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. So I don't believe that it will have any significant adverse impact on being considered for this project. I think it's a real quality project that I think has a lot of merit based on the criteria that are being put forward. I will say that it is normal that the different levels of government would try and ensure there's some general geographic distribution of funds, and so it wouldn't all go to one specific area, but this is a very different funding stream. And I think from my perspective, I think we would have as good a chance as any in this application.
Thank you very much. No other questions? Go ahead, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Not a question so much as a comment. Applications of this size and nature take a lot of time and a lot of skill to put together, and to recognize staff that have taken the time to do this. And this is separate and apart from what they would normally do. And I know that we have joint resources come together from a number of different departments to make this happen. So I just want to recognize that there are people out there who've been working on this behind the scenes. $44 million is a lot of money. If we're not successful with the entirety, let's hope that we are successful with a portion of it, because it does make a huge difference in smaller communities. And I know that was what they had talked about when they were putting these grants together probably a year ago, or pretty darn close, was that they wanted to make a difference in communities. And this would be a tremendous difference for us here in a project that we are already moving down the road on. So thank you, and kudos to staff for putting it together.
Again, I want to reiterate on what Madam Mayor said. This is something to be excited about, and since the taxpayer is not going to cost them anything, if I'm correctly, and DC charges and everything else, so we should be really proud and looking forward to this happening. So thank you to staff. Any other further questions? Go ahead, Councillor Morton.
Thank you. Through you to staff. On page 8 in my notes, they're saying that the childcare space is exclusive from the grant, where we won't be getting rid of the childcare space, I'm hoping. And where will we be getting the funds, or where can we get the funds to cover the cost of putting that in?
Yes, go ahead.
Through you, Chair. Again, we're active on many fronts in the discussions. The potential partnerships with the YMCA have evolved from a sort of a full-scale operation, where the YMCA was initially interested in the aquatic center and major programming areas. It was more targeted to childcare. The childcare rules from the funding streams are under review at this point in time. And what we can tell you is it goes in cycles, the childcare funding for bricks and mortar. And many years ago, and I think Councillor Carruthers could speak to this firsthand, it was quite common for new school builds to include childcare centers. It was actually pretty logical. And people would drop their children off to school. They could have before and after, and drop the other siblings off even that may not be quite able to attend the school yet. And that was then replaced with another model where they were looking for non-school childcare centers, sort of to be off-site. And the latest tranche that the provincial government is, and this is actually prior to the current provincial government, was to once again be back into school builds. And I think Our Lady of Good Counsel is an example of that, where there's a childcare center that's been built right in the center. The novelty of the Queensville project will be that this hub, this community hub, will be at the center of many school sites. And so we are actively having discussions with YMCA, led through Mr. Karmazin and Mr. Velchich's area, and the region and provincial folks at this point in time, to see if there is a capacity to get some funding that might allow for a more centralized childcare facility. So that rather than it being built separate and apart in several school sites, it would actually maybe be part of a childcare hub, a child development hub as part of this build. And I would ask either Mr. Karmazin or Mr. Velchich to add to that if they have any more information.
No comments? Okay. Any further questions? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. I have one more items here. Number 2 items, Community Park Recreation and Culture Memo. Tapestry Taste of East Gwillimbury International Food and Craft Beer Festival follow-up. Page 42 to 46. You have it in front of you. General Manager, do you have anything to add? Any comments?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there's an update on the first year of this festival, the number of successes with the first year of the festival. Always room for continuous improvement and some proposed areas for continuous improvement. We have proposed moving forward with this festival for 2020 with our partners with the Sharon Temple. I'd be happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Do I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Crone. Any questions, member of the committees? Yes, Councillor Carruthers, go ahead.
Thank you. Now that we have a diversity committee, I would ask that they be involved in the planning of the next Tapestry of Taste, since diversity is front and center of what we're trying to achieve with that. This year, the committee was just getting off the ground, but next year, I know the committee would love to be involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you make a note of that? General Manager, any other comments? Councillor Morton?
I think this is just a misprint, but if someone else is reading it, they might have some questions about it. They're talking about the vendor fees on one page is 84,469.08, and yet on the other one, another one, they're talking about it being 81,000. So if that can be corrected in case before it goes out for public. See where I mean, Councillor Roy-DiClemente? There's the breakdown as of October the 4th, where it's listing all the government grants, sponsorship, and the total revenue they've got as at 81,469.08, where on the page where they're talking about Tapestry of Taste and the accomplishments, it's saying that it's 84,469.08.
Could we make the amendment then, please? Note that. Any other questions, members of the committee? They don't. Councillor Crone?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Mr. Karmazin. Given the amount of effort and time that went into planning this and the revenue that was generated, is it the feeling of committee that this was time well spent and that the benefits were indicative of all the effort put into it? Do you feel it was an overall net benefit to the community? Thank you.
Thank you. General Manager, do you have any comments?
Through you, Mr. Chair, based on the post-event assessment, along with the Sharon Temple, as you can see, there were a number of accomplishments for first year, and certainly something to build upon. Anytime you can host a community festival and bring together the different communities of the town and especially showcase a site and a venue like the Sharon Temple, and walk away at the end of the event with a net profit, I think is very positive. So again, I would like to draw focus to the many accomplishments in the first year, and as well having generated a net profit. And we've certainly noted some areas to continuously improve and to develop the event. And events like this do have to gain equity over time and awareness over time. So we are looking forward to another opportunity in 2020 to make the event and the festival even better.
Thank you, General Manager. No other comments? Can I have a vote? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. You want to add anything, General Manager Karmazin? Okay, that's it from me. I'll pass it on to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. We're at item G, Corporate Services, with Councillor Morton in the chair.
Actually, Madam Mayor, I have nothing under my chair today unless Mr. Balchich has some comments.
Madam Chair, nothing specific to this agenda. However, just a reminder that this evening we'll be doing a a presentation of a preliminary overview to the 2020 proposed budget, which really kicks off the public deliberation process.
Any questions for Mr. Valtich? Hearing none, I turn the chair back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We'll save them for tonight. We're at item H, and that's Community Infrastructure and Environmental Services with Councillor Carruthers in the chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We just have one item today on the, it's an update memo on the former Overholt pit site alteration. I'll turn that over to you, General Manager Molinari.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This memorandum is really just an update for Council, just to advise that the application is moving along nicely, and the applicant's looking to provide a presentation to Council to go over the proposal, and that's tentatively booked for November 19th, the evening Council session.
Thank you. We have a motion to receive this report. Can I have someone move that? Councillor Crone. Do we have any questions at this time or comments? Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. I know that there was an open house. I was attended, and a number of residents were quite interested, and I think left with all of their comments, questions answered. I'm wondering if there is still ongoing opportunity for residents to provide any feedback or have any questions answered.
Mr. Molinari.
Through you, Madam Chair, absolutely. The public can provide comments at any time, and part of the reason for the presentation is to give the public an opportunity to provide comments at that council meeting as well. So there's still lots of time for the council or for the public to be involved and provide their feedback.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Crone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Mr. Molinari. At this public meeting, November 19th, prior to that, will we be sending notices out to neighboring residents of the meeting?
Mr. Molinari.
Through you, Madam Chair, certainly part of the process is to advise all residents who are within the initial mail-out area. They would be provided with notice of that council meeting, and anybody who has registered or provided an interest in that in this particular application will also be notified.
Thank you. If there's no further questions, all in favor? And that's carried. Mr. Molinari, do you have anything to add?
Nothing further at this time. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from members of committee? Seeing none, I turn the chair back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. We are at item I, Emergency and Community Safety Services with Councillor Roy-DiClemente in the chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no prepared items on our agenda. General Manager Dawson, do you have anything to add this time? Bring forward.
With thanks, nothing further.
Members of committee, anything to raise under this area? Seeing none, I'll turn the chair back to you.
Thank you very much. We're at item J under administration with myself in the chair. And Mr. Webster, I'll turn that over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a very interesting report that we're quite proud of as an administration team. We received a sizable sum of money from the provincial government for modernization funding, and equivalent actually, if our current tax is a 1% tax increase, is currently about $220,000. So $750,000 was quite a sum to receive. And we thank the provincial government for that. And it actually came with very few strings attached. And one of the criteria, though, is it wasn't intended to simply buy down municipal budgets. And by that, it wasn't meant to be brought in as a one-year subsidy to keep taxes down. The purpose of the program was to find long-term efficiencies and savings and front resident stakeholder-facing programs where you could be more efficient and provide better services and be more customer-friendly. And in this regard, I'm going to pass it over to General Manager Valtich, who took this assignment and put together a team along with his colleagues at the Senior Management Group. And Mr. Valtich can tell you about what we've done. And I believe that there's also a staff team presentation that goes along with it. So I'll pass it along to Mr. Valchich.
Thank you, Tom, and through you, Madam Mayor. One of the things that I wanted to just remind committee of is that over the past couple of years, we started to have a lot more conversation about information management, development of our information systems, and integration of our information systems to ensure that we're working smarter and not harder. Sometimes we refer to it that way. In late 2018, we had Diverse Systems Group consulting come in, a fellow by the name of Scott McNeil. He did a little bit of work with us to essentially look at our current state, try and give us a sense of where we were at and what opportunities we had for moving forward. One of the things that came out of that, and you will have heard over the last couple of years us talk about developing a culture of creativity and innovation. We want that to be something that defines us as a team of staff, as a team working with council, and we want to make sure that we are doing business in the smartest and most cost-effective way that we can. So this money almost could not have come at a better time. We're also coming off of a very, very large sort of increase in development that we've worked through. We're now a little more stabilized in terms of our growth projections for the next couple of years. So it really is a golden opportunity for us to reflect, retool, and then get ready for that next wave. One of the things that did come out of the review that was done last fall prior to this funding being announced was the concept of something some staff referred to as the creation of an idea lab. And we called it a business solutions advisory team. And that team consisted of representation of all of our departments to really give them a venue to dialogue together, work together, and think together about opportunities this organization had, not only to be more efficient, but more effective in our program and service delivery, and do that at the very best value for our taxpayers. So two of the folks that have been leading that initiative from communications and from the clerk's office, Tara and Laura, I believe with your permission, we're going to do a brief overview of some of the things that the group has come up with, and certainly any of us on the team or myself would be prepared to answer any questions you might have resulting from that. But really the goal here is to take that money and to use it to really launch forward with some initiatives that we think are going to take EG to a next level.
Thank you for that introduction. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, members of council, residents, and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to present today. We would like to start by letting you know that this is a really exciting project for all of those who have been involved. In fact, it's been a bit of a passion project. So we're really hoping that through this presentation today, you're going to see that passion come out and see the excitement that we have moving forward. To start with, we're going to tell you a little bit of a story of how many of these projects came to be. I will be reiterating some of what Mark said as well, but I think it's important to look at this as the whole concept. So as Mark mentioned, from 2016 to 2018, the town underwent an unprecedented rate of growth. So our population went from 24,000 to just over 32,000 in just a matter of 2 years. So these years were very busy. They were very exciting. There was a lot of opportunities in them. Once that growth slowed down, it was really an opportunity for staff to take a look at some of the changes that we went through during that time. So how did we adapt to those incoming residents? And what was some of the feedback that we were hearing from residents about things that maybe we could be doing differently in the future as we move forward and begin to welcome the new residents that we know are still coming? Also, in late 2018, as part of that reflection, we established the Business Solutions Advisory Team, which Mark mentioned, BSAT. This was done through the guidance of an external consultant, and it was really an opportunity to identify some innovation opportunities, to improve access to data for all of our staff, and to help provide recommendations to move forward the corporation. So this is really looking at council's direction of how can we provide these high quality and affordable programs and services for our residents in the best way possible. So our group began to meet and we identified projects. There was just a little bit of an issue, and that was funding, which is what brings us to our presentation today. That's okay, I'll carry on. In early 2019, the province announced funding for municipalities to help them modernize, improve service delivery, and become more efficient. So those funds were given unconditionally. There was no requirements for approval for expenditures. And each municipality's funding was based on what their population was. So, and then was that population urban or rural? And so the town received received $725,000, which we now have and is ready for allocation, which is why we're here today. Thank you. Perfect. In order to identify the projects, we did look at some speeches and media releases that were in relation to this funding, because although there was no direct criteria, we did see some themes that came across in all of the communications about this funding. So some of the things that we identified were to modernize, to achieve value for money, to create efficiencies, and help reduce future municipal costs. If those were the provincial criteria, we also wanted to add in our own town-based philosophy. So what works here in East Gwillimbury? And some of the things that we established were that the residents need to see directly see the projects and enjoy what these funds are being spent on. So you'll see a lot of the projects have that direct resident impact. We also wanted to ensure that as we're continuing to grow, we need to be putting in place processes that help us to be efficient. So that was the second criteria that we established. And then we also looked at projects that typically can't be funded elsewhere. So you will see a number of the projects here are IT related. They don't typically receive grant funding. Typically those would go in as a capital request, which as we know would be a tax-based levy and then have an impact on the bottom line. So we're using these funds as an opportunity to move those forward. And if there was a legislative impact, so items that we know would have been required to be moved forward, we're trying to offset those future costs by including them here. So we're going to walk through each of these projects individually, just give you a brief overview of them. We do have the project managers who are working on each of these in the audience today. So after the presentation, if you have questions about the technical requirements, they're all here as well. To start with, I'd like to talk about the online portal. This is something that our residents have been communicating with staff for several years. It's something that will help us move into the future and align with other local municipalities. This is a secure online portal that will allow residents access to their water bills, their tax bills. They can pay things online such as parking tickets, or if they wanted to create a dog license, instead of coming in, grabbing the form from customer service, going over, filling out the form, getting in line again, going back and paying, which can be a lengthy process. They can actually do all that online. That's actually a story from a resident who came in, and then we did speak with her to say, these are the types of things we're trying to put in place so that it's easier. Residents have a variety of options to interact with the town, and we are modernizing. This project is being led by Valadima through our Manager of Finance. The next project I'd like to talk about is one that I'm particularly excited about as it's coming out of the communications area. This is the redesign and enhancement of our website. The last time that the town's website was updated was in 2010, and as we know, there's been a lot of changes to digital technology in that time. Previously, when our website was designed, it really focused on a desktop type of use. Now we can look at our Google Analytics and see that over 50% of our users are actually coming in through a mobile device or a tablet. So we want to make sure that we're really focused on that mobile friendliness. We also have a vendor who's moving away from website support. Although they support us in a technology basis, we are looking forward to moving in with a new vendor who can support us in modernizing and incorporating things such as the AODA compliance, ensuring that our GIS is incorporated. So things that are a little bit more modern for our website. The next project is our council live streaming, which was led by the clerks and IT department. So this project directly aligns with council's focus to increase communications with residents. And although live streaming is already in place, it does align with the modernization funding program. So we are recommending that the funds come from this grant. And the last project that I'll touch on is our phone system automations and upgrades. This is led jointly through customer service and IT. And this is a really good example of a project that should it not been funded or should it not be funded through the modernization program, it would be coming through as a budget request. We are at the end of life for our phone servers, so this was a necessary project to move forward. However, using this grant funding, we're also adding in some increased efficiencies. So things such as voice recognition software. So if a resident calls in, they can actually say the name of the person or the department they're looking for rather than having to know the extension. This is in other local municipalities as well. So if you called Newmarket, for example, you would be able to see that. We're also adding in enhanced reporting, which will really help my team specifically with making business intelligence decisions. And then as well, we identified a risk through our emergency management portfolio, which is if there was an emergency in the community, we didn't have the necessary control of the call center to be able to close it as necessary. So we've added those controls into this program as well. And I'll pass it over to Tara to take you through the remainder projects.
Thank you, Laura. So moving on to the next project, this is a Holt pickup locker and material vending machine solution. It is an exciting project that is being led by Monica Mahachek, Chief Executive Officer at the library. It has a direct resident impact as it focuses on providing modern, convenient, and flexible library service to additional areas of the town, as well as established centers. This project really aims to increase access to literacy, promote learning in the community, and provide access for material pickup at convenient times and locations within the town. In the next couple of slides, I wanted to walk you guys through three indirect resident impact projects. The successful implementation of these projects will immensely support modernization efforts and better position us to deliver efficient services to both internal staff as well as our community at large. To start, I would like to introduce the Enterprise Content Management Project, also known as the ECM. This is an exciting and timely project because it is being led by Fernando Lamana and myself. And currently, as Mark alluded to earlier, we are in the process of developing an information management plan to guide the use and management of town's information-based assets. A core component of this particular plan is actually enterprise content management. At the moment, there's a lack of comprehensive corporate standard and framework in place to effectively secure and streamline the flow of corporate data. The lack of standards and adequate technology places the town at an unnecessary level of risk as it relates to protecting information-based data. A strategic handle on our internal data is needed so that we can gain better control over our content and staff can have reliable access and secured in a secured fashion to our contents. To address these issues, we actually engaged the services of diverse system groups in 2018 to conduct an independent analysis of the state of our records and enterprise content management practices. During this assignment, several observations and recommendations were made by the consultant. And essentially, the solution was to implement an enterprise content management so that we can address the issues of data integrity, security, business continuity plan, business efficiency, and productivity. This project introduces a whole new system solution. The successful implementation of the ECM allows us to implement appropriate technology and data management framework to help support the town's business continuity plan and strengthen the security measures to protect town's information-based assets. It also allows us to automate the way the data is managed. This will help streamline the town's business process and increase our productivity and efficiencies by finding reliable data faster and eliminating duplication and time spent searching for information. This part is very important as we deal with freedom of information requests and information requests on a daily, so it would immensely help our staff in terms of productivity and efficiency. And last but not least, the successful implementation of ECM also allows the possibility for systems and content integration, which will further optimize our business process. The next project I would like to introduce is an innovative and modernized project focusing on integration and modernization. InfoNow is a project led by Carolyn Saxton, our GIS coordinator. As previously mentioned, the successful implementation of ECM allows for the possibility of system and content integration. While ECM will focus on strategic integration of data and file systems, InfoNow will focus on systems integration. Essentially, what this is that we aim to have subject matter experts work and conduct back-end work in various different computer programming languages so that town systems and data can be integrated together so that we can use one device to search for our information. So what does all of this mean? There's a lot of language being thrown. So let's say that we receive an information request and a staff member is tasked to actually process this request. And we've used 19,003 Leslie Street as an example. You can search a lot of different types of information for this particular property, from building permits to zoning bylaw complaints and so on and so forth. In order to actually be able to find all of this information, when we're looking at it, we have to typically tap into various different staff members, softwares, systems, and depending on the type of information you're looking for, this process can take between hours to days to finish. So InfoNow will bring together all of the systems that we have and uses one search device to look for this information. Using a GIS spatial and tabular data, this will give access to reliable information which has already been vetted through the ECM framework at the time of the search so that staff doesn't have to tap into so many multiple different avenues to find information. Basically, the two ECM and InfoNow projects will reduce staff search time, increase reliability on data, and provide efficiencies to ensure that staff and residents have access to the right information at the right time. And our last project is an exciting project called Digital Project Window. This project is being led by Chris Catania, our manager of municipal facilities. What it does, it uses construction project cameras to essentially create a digital window for staff to view progress and milestones of various different projects in real time from any computer or any mobile devices, and potentially opening up the path for residents to also be able to view these milestones in the future. Implementation of this project allows instant access to the job site and enhances project management to ensure that accountability is held with contractors and projects to run efficiently, on time, and on budget. So now this brings us to the base cost estimate. As you can see on the screen before you, majority of the projects that we're proposing today have direct resident impact. And even though 3 projects don't explicitly identify as direct, they do in fact develop a strategic framework for which residents can better access reliable data at a faster pace. All of the proposed modernization projects outlined today focus on creating business efficiencies and modernized service delivery to ultimately provide better resident experience. Increased modernization and automation will result in net cost savings and improves resident services. It is anticipated that these savings will be in the form of additional capacity from staff time by converting manual processes into automated systems. So to conclude, I kind of wanted to give you guys a little bit of a summary of some points that we've mentioned from the beginning of this presentation, but also give you an overview of what we're dealing with. From the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, technology is everywhere. And it's rapidly changing to a point where we can't even keep up with the change. And according to a recent report from IBM, 90% of the world data is created in the past couple of years. So the amount of data we produce every day and significant changes to the digital technology is truly mind-boggling. But this opens up the door to a vast array of opportunities for improved technology, data and systems integration, and analytics for better decision-making. We are at a pivotal moment, and this fund was very, very timely. With the growth slowdown, now is the time to invest in the right tools and technologies so that we can move forward into the next phase of growth. All of the projects presented to you today will position us to improve our service to residents, modernize our program delivery, effectively use staff time and resources, improve business continuity plan, enhance our reporting methods, improve the use of technology, and focus on initiatives that will reduce future operating costs and improve access to data. A cultural shift is needed to innovate and achieve efficiencies. And as experts in our fields who continually dialogue with residents, we are standing here today to recommend what we believe enables a corporation to successfully move forward in this term of council. We have a team that is eager to improve business efficiencies, and we are positioned in such a way that we can have the right ingredients at the right time to effectively move towards a culture of innovation and change. This brings us to the end of the presentation. We're more than happy to answer any questions or take any comments.
Thank you very much. Well done. Questions, comments? Councillor Persechini.
Just a couple of comments. I've seen both of you grow in the past 4 years. You guys are amazing. Really, really proud of you, both of you. but you took over the positions and you're doing quite well. And then sometimes we are, not me, I'm just saying this as a personal note and not anyone else is sharing, that I've watched you guys, both of you, grow, and you guys are doing a great job. And I do want to thank you for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Go ahead, Councillor Roy-DiClemente.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess because the descriptions are a little bit high level, I'm wondering if I could have a bit more information on the difference between the enterprise content management system and the Info Now. It sounds like we're gathering information and querying it, and so they both sound similar to me, and I'm wondering if you can help distinguish them for me, please.
Absolutely. So enterprise content management, again, what it does, it deals with files and our documents. Info Now is essentially using back-end works to integrate systems. So what we need to do in the beginning phases is to ensure that our contents are in order. So our filing systems are in a way that we can move forward with the Info Now project, which is to integrate our system so that it can pull reliable information from various different software systems that we have. They're very similar, I understand that, but very different in nature in terms of the type of work that we have to do in the back end.
Thank you. Further, just there was some reference to net cost savings. I think given the volume or the amount of money involved, I think it might be helpful to have an understanding of whether that's staff time or investment in capital. What are we planning to save when we spend this money? We are introducing some modest annual operating expenses. So what's our net savings overall? Do we have a sense of that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, if that's okay, I'll just refer that back to General Manager Valchich.
Madam Mayor, through you, it's a little difficult to put an exact dollar amount on it, but I think what you heard in the presentation is this is going to enable staff to be much more efficient with their time. So what it's going to do is either delay, defer, or negate the requirement for additional staffing that might be required to do manual processes. And we're also going to see improved program and service delivery, which we also believe is going to lead to more timely and more informed decision making. So there's going to be a lot of benefits to this. I'll just give you one example. We've been working with one of our information systems in the building department, for example, and there's one of the data collection and reporting exercises that my understanding is can take up to a quarter to a half an FTE worth of time. We're now working on sort of drilling into our information systems and sort of formalizing that in a more electronic fashion to probably eliminate a quarter of a person's worth of work that might be required and get the same information, and in fact get it on a more accurate and more timely basis. So does that mean that you can start making reductions to complement? Not necessarily, but it does mean that you may be able to very well delay or defer or negate the requirement for adding as you continue to grow because you're simply working smarter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think for me it would be helpful if we were that we might even add an additional clause to this resolution that speaks to the idea that we would be monitoring the implementation and reporting back on savings achieved, really just so that we can be as transparent as possible and be able to, I guess from a funding perspective, to say we used the money wisely and this is how it was used, and this was the dramatic impact that it is we were projecting it to have, but this was the dramatic impact that it ended up having for us.
Councillor Crone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to, I'm going to say Mr. Valchich. My last career, we were implementing a company-wide system very much like this, where I think, and you made the point that I was going to make, that it will help us make better informed decisions on things that we do going forward. So I think that's really critical for us, that when we make a decision, we have all the data in front of us. So I'm really behind that. I'm very excited about this. I think this is going to be a good project. And I think it's going to allow a lot of our staff to dedicate more time to adding value to the residents of East Gwillimbury as opposed to hunting and searching for data that's somewhere in the bowels of our of our archives here. So that's good. I know when we were looking at implementing the new system, it was going to take a good 2 years to implement. Any sense of the time frame for implementing this system? Either you or Tara.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the implementation that we have proposed is for this term of council. So we're hoping to get all of our projects up and running by this term of council.
Okay, so, and I guess my second question is, and this is going to be a little more specific, this maybe where you come in, Mr. Velchich, through you, Madam Mayor, staff. One of the things I'm really keen on is giving an example of the water bills. I know we bill quarterly. I would love to see us have a system where we could bill monthly. I think there's been some research that shows that people that are billed monthly, whether it's from an organization like ours or from a company, the positive customer experience is a little better. So I would love to see something like that incorporated. I know it might be a tweak to our billing system, or maybe even a whole brand new billing system. I'm not sure how we do that. So I would encourage that. Secondly, given the fact that we have water meters now and things like that, we should be able to provide, and I know some municipalities do this, where you can look at a street and say, okay, this is the average water usage, and you can use it as a technique to nudge someone into conservation measures, so that if they see that they're using vastly more water than their neighbors, and you say, well, this is what you're using, but your neighbors are using a lot less, and that's a good nudge to get them to adopt a more conservation mindset. I would love to see that. I don't know if you have any comments. I might be pie in the sky here, but I want to get it off my chest.
Madam Mayor, through you, thank you. Definitely not pie in the sky. I love what I'm hearing. It's right along the same line of thinking that we're contemplating as a staff team. In terms of some of the I'll call them data analytics. So we have a wealth of information that we want to sort of have quality exception reports that might kick out on a timely basis to tell us where there's trends occurring that manually are very difficult for us and not that timely to identify. We're now starting to be able to, with some of the advanced technology on these meters and the ease of the reads and some of the information that's being extracted out of the system, we're able to much more quickly identify where an individual account might even be trending as a bit of an outlier, and proactively, although clearly it's the water user's responsibility to be responsible for their water use and managing and monitoring their own use, but we might be able to add a little extra value and some extra service in that regard by flagging where we're starting to see trends that look a little abnormal. So I think it's all about, and the staff that are presenting today talked about anything we can do to be a little bit more creative, innovative, and improve the resident experience. And I think that falls right in line with that.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? I just had one when we get to the resolution. This is a lot of money that we've been successful with an application to receive. And I think it might be prudent for us to add to our resolution that an offer to MPP Mulrooney to provide a personal presentation to her or staff to let her know the amount of thought that went into the application, but now in actually applying the dollars, I think it would be, I think it would speak volumes to her. Whatever we're ready for that. Are there any other questions then? Okay, then I guess we are ready. Can I have a mover for the Councillor Persechini? And my wording I'll leave to staff, but that would be the essence of it, an offer to MPP Mulrooney to provide a personal presentation to herself and or staff. Go ahead.
With Councillor Persechini's permission, I had also suggested that we add a clause that we monitor the implementation and that staff monitor implementation and report back to council on results. I might also suggest that the last word of the resolution, it says that the funding for the projects outlined in the report, it was actually of a presentation.
Yes.
Rather than in the form of a report. So I think we should be a little bit more accurate. in
Change
what
it to
we're doing. Just
presentation?
to change it to presentation, but
Yep.
also to include those two clauses of that we offer to present a report to or a presentation to MPP Mulrooney, as well as the implementation and reporting back to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do you have that?
Through you,
Go ahead.
Madam Chair. Yes, we have the wording suggested by Councillor Roy-DiClemente that council directs staff to monitor the cost savings of each project as they are implemented, and that council directs staff to provide the presentation to MPP Mulrooney along with a copy of the report. And just to advise council, the province has been in contact with my office periodically, either through a phone call or through email, just asking to as a follow-up with regards to the funding. And our last correspondence with the minister's office was that following today's presentation, we would provide them with the presentation, the report, and council's resolution. So we will be doing that in addition.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Roy-DiClemente, are you looking for financial savings or and/or efficiencies, or just financial savings?
I think that the Mr. Valchich's comments were sort of the direction that I was headed in. It was that there were some efficiencies and cost savings to be realized, and I think regardless, we're streamlining our operations, we're improving our residents, the customer service that we're providing to our residents, and the goal of this money was to find savings and add value. And I think we need to be reporting out on that aspect of it. Yes, we've implemented some projects, but what was the actual end product, and whether it was saving someone's day-to-day manual work, or whether we ended up not having to spend some money that we would have had to spend otherwise. I think those are both important things to capture.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, all those in favor? And that's carried. That's the only item we have on the agenda. Mr. Webster, do you have any updates at this time?
Not at this time, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. We will move to item K. That's legal and counsel support services with Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have one item on the agenda, a legal services branch memo regarding insurance and broker renewal. Mr. Horner, any comments?
Just to keep council in the loop, let committee know that the policy that we have right now expires in January 2020, and we're working with the other N6 municipalities to get some competitive quotes by going to market, and we expect to have the be back before you before the policy expires to get your permission to renew, and also I think to just maybe a bit of a dose of reality too, or to let you know that the expectation is that the premiums are going to go up. We're paying about $550,000 a year right now for insurance premiums. And we're getting indications from the consultants and the broker community that next year will be more expensive for us.
Thank you, Mr. Horner. Can I have a mover to receive this
I have
memo?
a question. That matter?
And are there any questions from committee?
Yes, sorry about that. I just want to know, once this insurance, we decide, how do we pay it? Is it monthly, or is it in the past, how we pay the insurance?
I don't recall how we do pay. Do you, Mr. Treasurer?
Through you, I'm not actually sure if it's paid in one annual amount or if it's a sort of a quarterly billing or such, but we could certainly get that information back for you in terms
Yeah,
of
I prefer
cash
that
flow
you
and
pay
timing.
monthly if there's no
We'll find
interest.
out. We can find out for
Save
you.
some money. I mean, like, my money invested is better than giving all the money up front. just like the question I asked. Go ahead, sorry.
Are there any further questions? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, we can reword that so that we have some payment information.
Through Mr. Chair, we can certainly amend the resolution if the mover is requesting that, or just as directing the staff.
I think just directing the staff will work for this one. That's fine. So seeing no further questions, can I have a vote? All in favor? And none opposed. That is carried. Anything further, Mr. Horner?
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. I will turn the chair back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. We're under item L, and that's Development Services with Councillor Crone in the chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We just have one item on the agenda today. It is a Development Services Planning Branch report, proposed changes to the provincial policy statement. Mr. Ramuno, would you like to expand on this for us?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Chair. So this is a follow-up report. I did provide council with an overview of the provincial proposed changes to the policy statement in September. And so in this report, staff have outlined some comments for council's consideration, and the intent here is to submit those as the town comments to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs. Their deadline for receiving comments is October 21st. Again, just to add, we've been communicating with York Region planning staff and other local municipalities within York Region, and these comments are essentially pretty similar to some of the comments some of the other municipalities are intending on submitting to their council and on to the province. I'd be pleased to take any questions if there are any questions on some of the detailed comments that we're providing. And again, they do relate to some of the 5 or 6 key objectives that the province is looking at making changes to some of those policy statements.
Thank you. Could I have a mover for this report, please? Moved by Councillor Persechini. Are there any questions? I'll ask a question. Mr. Ramuno, was there anything in this update, this report, that jumped out at you of concern, or is it, in your years of experience, pretty much what you expect?
To you, Mr. Chair. Again, this is the 5-year review, nothing other than the ordinary. I mean, the one or couple sort of what I would consider more significant type changes that they are proposing relate to the province's, housing action supply plan, which is really their objective to increase housing supply throughout the province. And on page, I guess it's 2 of 12, objective 1. Some of the proposed changes are increasing the planning horizon from the current 20-year to 25 years, as well as increasing the housing supply, which is currently stated at a 10-year supply to 12-year, and again, the service land supply from 3 to 5. So those are changes that I think staff are supportive of. But apart from that, they're pretty high-level changes, nothing too significant in my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Ramuno. Last chance for questions. Seeing none, all in favor? Okay, motion is carried. Mr. Ramuno, do you have any other comments you'd like to share with the committee?
Nothing further.
Okay. Committee, is there any other questions you might have for Mr. Ramuno? Okay. Seeing none, I hand it back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. We're at item M, and that's other business. And the first item of business is the Holland Landing Community Group, engaging Holland Landing businesses. Are there questions on this? I think relatively self-explanatory. Congratulations to the Holland Landing Community Group. Looks like they're getting some legs and moving along. Be anxious to see where they go with all of this. So well done. Could I have a mover, Councillor Carruthers? Any questions? Yeah.
This is to be moved, ratified tonight, if I
Yes.
if I read correctly.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yep. Good.
Yep. They want to move along? Okay. All those in favor? And that's carried. The second item we have is workshop topics for November the 12th. Mr. Webster, do we have some proposed topics? I would think outside of budget, but perhaps not.
We actually do, Madam Mayor and Council. We've think it might be time to have a round 2 of strategic real estate discussion with Council. Taking a look at some of our needs of a community moving forward. And secondly, a litigation update on several of our litigation matters that we are currently before. So I think that this workshop will be a special council session in camera. It'll open in public and it'll be dealt with in camera, and we will see what can be released out of in camera following. So I would suggest that probably a 10 to 12 time slot would be adequate.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, we'll just leave that as an advisement. And I do not have any other business at this time. Seeing none, we will adjourn. Sorry, Mr. Webster, go ahead.
2 other advisements, Madam Mayor. One is we do have an in-camera session planned for today. There's not a lot on it, but there is some matters of discussion, so maybe we can do that following this. And I have an advisement that I have required attendance tonight at the Association of Ontario CAOs board. I will not be present for council, so I will be absent with notice.
Thank you. Okay. And a motion to adjourn at 2:11, moved by Councillor Carruthers. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. We'll take a 15-minute break and come back for our private session and move forward from there.